Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spear Movie Review YouTube channel. I'm Alan.
I'm Olivia.
Yes. And we're doing our first movie, which we just saw on Netflix, and it's called
I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
I'm Thinking of Ending Things is a film directed by Charlie Kaufman. Charlie Kaufman is the writer of such very strange and eclectic movies as Being John Malkovich, Adaptation, and The Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. He's been more of a director lately. I haven't really seen any of his stuff lately, so basically my knowledge of him is more of as a writer. But he makes this movie, which just dropped on Netflix. I was very excited to see it. It's got an awesome cast, including Jesse Plemons, Jesse Buckley, Toni Collette, and David Thewlis.
Yes, and they were all great.
They were all fantastic in the movie. So it starts off with a man named Jake, played by Jesse Plemons, and a girl named Lucy.
Various names.
To begin with, but then as time goes on, she has different names. It's very strange. And they're going to get together in a snowstorm for some reason and drive out to visit Jake's parents' house for the first time. They've been dating for, a month and a half or 2 months or so. And now that they're taking the big steps. So it's a very ordinary premise, with the exception that they will be driving in the snow for some reason. We're not really 100% sure why. And even though it's snowing, and even though everything seems to be going well in the relationship, we kind of see it from the girl's point of view, the young lady's point of view, and she's a little bit unsure of what's happening and why it is that she's doing what she's doing, even though she really likes the guy.
Yeah, like he's a nice guy. Like she says multiple times, she's like, Jake's a nice guy.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm thinking of anything. I just see him.
So before they go out and they visit the parents, there's a fairly long road trip, and there's this very long scene of Jake and the young woman driving out, and we get to find out a little bit more about them.
Yeah.
For instance, we find out that the young woman is, first we think she's a veterinarian, or at least a veterinarian candidate, like somebody who's studying to be a veterinarian. She was studying
something where she had to have a paper due the next day, that like on Monday. That was like.
But 5 minutes later, she's a poet.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can obviously be a veterinarian and a poet.
I just assumed that poetry was like a hobby that she had.
Yeah, but she all of a sudden, just strangely out of the blue, she recites this long poem that goes on that goes on for like minutes and minutes and minutes of her reciting a poem in the middle of this sort of like road trip situation. And within the road trip, it's like snowing and cold and it's hard to understand exactly what it is that's happening. You want to take when they finally do get to the parents' house, what happens?
Okay, so they get to the parents' house, and first off, it's like a very awkward situation. The parents don't come down for so much longer after they arrive. Or they go to the farm. I forgot about that part. They're like, so when they first get there, Jesse Plemons' character, Jake, he was just like, I want to show you around. Here's the farm. And she's like, no, it's freezing. Let's just go inside. But he's like, no.
Takes her to the barn. Yeah. And shows her like the lamb. And then just the whole thing is just so strange. And the feeling is that you get this feeling in your mind that there's just something wrong, something that isn't right that's happening. But yeah, so let's just talk about. So with the writing, this is based on a book, but Charlie Kaufman has adapted it from the book and put his own spin on it, and it feels very much like sort of like the same kind of weirdness as some of those other movies. I know you've only seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but it did feel a little bit like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. But yeah, so we definitely enjoyed that. The atmosphere, which was built up by this incredible cinematography. The cinematography was great because a lot of the times they would capture how cold and desolate the place that they were traveling was. And you could see it sort of like inside the car. They were shooting from outside the car.
Whenever they were in the car, either going to the family's house, the farmhouse, or going from the farmhouse,
which happens later on.
That's later on. It's always being filmed from the outside, so there's like ice going by the camera. You're never quite inside the car, which is really interesting.
Almost feels like you're watching it from the outside. Yeah. So just it's just a very creepy movie, and we have a lot of ideas about what's going on, and let me talk about the acting. I mean, David Thewlis was good. Toni Collette was spectacular, like she always
really
is. And then of course Jesse Plemons, and then Jessie Buckley, such a standout. I was just incredibly like fixated on these people and their conversations and what it was that they were talking about and what it was that they were saying throughout the entire film. And there was a moment when they were at the parents' house when time would stop moving in a linear basis, and the parents would go from being very old and even on their deathbed to being young, like in their 30s, and you weren't 100% sure what time period you were in, and the main characters, the Jake and the Lucy / young woman character were just rolling with it like it was no big deal.
Yeah, no one acknowledged that it was weird that these two people that in the young woman's version had just met them, and then they're going from like in their 50s to like the normal age for and then they're suddenly really old,
like 70s or 80s, and then they're suddenly in their 30s,
and she turns around and then she's like this. Toni Collette's character is like this 30-year-old mom just picking up after her kid. Like what?
Yeah, it's really difficult. It would be really difficult to follow unless you knew going in that it's going to be just a little bit different, And throughout the entire thing, there's just things just weren't right. Like it was a normal situation, a girlfriend visiting her boyfriend's parents for the first time. And they took that and they twisted it into this really strange and almost psychedelic and almost, I think, dreamlike sort of a feel to it. So, so it keeps going that way, and they leave the house, and more strange things happen, and the girl gets confused, and stuff happens at the end. I mean, I don't want to get too much into it, but I will say the acting was amazing. The story was outstanding. However, I will have to say that this isn't a movie for somebody who just wants to watch it casually. I feel very strongly that if you're going to watch this film, you really need to allow yourself to pay attention to what's going on.
This isn't a movie that you put on like in the background while you're like washing the dishes. It's not something that you just like, if you fall asleep during movies, I wouldn't recommend watching this movie.
Yeah.
Because you'd be so lost, even more lost than you are watching it fully conscious and aware of what's happening.
Right. So, but in the end, the movie was great. I don't really want to get too much into sort of like what happened at the end, because the ending is very strange. I will tell you that. It's very odd. And I think it's important that you, as somebody who's watching the film, realize that you can take whatever you want from the ending.
Oh, yeah.
And that instead of allowing yourself to be confused, I think that you ought to come up with sort of like your own theories.
Yeah.
Like
even with the so we watched it with also my mother, and so all of us have completely different interpretations of what happened at the end.
Yeah. So I don't want to get too much into that. I'll let you come up with your own interpretation, but in the end, it was a really well done movie. It's one of my favorites of the year. I think it may be my favorite of the year. It's definitely right up there. And I'm rooting for, you know, like a little bit during Oscar time for actress, actor, screenplay, cinematography, adapted screenplay, and cinematography.
And maybe Best Picture.
Yeah, maybe Best Picture, but it's definitely the type of film that probably won't get the Best Picture nod, but I could see it kind of sneaking in and kind of like the bottom part of it, especially in a year like this. So. But yeah, so I think it's about, I would give it 4 stars out of 5, or about maybe an 80%, an 80 out of 100. So
I give it like a 4.5. I was a big fan. I really enjoyed it. I like weird stuff.
And we're probably going to be watching it again sometime.
Yeah.
And there's a possibility that we might do another one of these videos, but make it more of a more spoilery.
Yeah, talking about theories.
I think we
and all
probably had a little bit of spoilers probably in this conversation.
I'm probably gonna put a spoiler at the saying
small spoiler, yeah. But overall, thank you for visiting our first ever video for our YouTube channel, and we enjoyed this. And like I say, I'm Alan Spear. This is my daughter Olivia Spear, and we're hopefully going to be doing this a lot. So thank you very much.
Cool. Bye.